Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a cable stitch wreath. This is my Cabot wreath. It kind of gives cozy sweater wreath vibes. We're going to be making a cover that fits over a 12-inch styrofoam wreath. I'm going to be showing you how to make the cover with the cable stitch and how to make the hanger as well. You can make this in a variety of colors, embellish it in a lot of different ways. Cables are perfect for fall and winter. They are warm and cozy. You're going to need some worsted weight yarn. I am using Emma's yarn. This is the washable worsted weight yarn. The orange color is called Volume, and the brown color is called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. This is from my local yarn boutique. They hand dye it right there in Winter Haven, Florida. It is an absolute dream to work with. It is soft, it is squishy, it is beautiful. This is a 100% superwash merino wool. I do typically work with acrylic yarns for my wreaths, but superwash wool is really durable, and I really wanted to use this beautiful orange yarn. Together with the worsted weight yarn, you're going to need an H8 5mm crochet hook. I ordered this one on Etsy. It is my favorite crochet hook to use. It's clay, ergonomic, so that my hand doesn't hurt as I work. It is beautiful. I will link this in the description box below if you'd like to treat yourself to a nice new hook. There are lots of beautiful designs to choose from. I will also link this yarn in the description box below. It is fantastic. You should definitely try it out. My wreath form underneath is a green color. There is white and there is green. Either one could work. You can see through a little bit in the holes, so I went with the green because it's darker than the brighter white to go with my orange yarn. But if you were using a lighter color, maybe you would want to have the white. After I started working this project up, I was loving the stitch pattern so much that I made a scarf with it, and in doing so I modified the beginning and end so that it would match the same width as the rest of the project. I did not do that with this wreath since I started it before that. So I just went with it, and when I finish seaming up, you'll notice that I talk about the puffiness here. So I am going to modify the written pattern so that it matches the way that the scarf is done, and it'll produce a fabric that is all the same width as opposed to flaring out in the beginning and the end. So I will show you how to do it the original way in the tutorial. I will write the new instructions in the description box below, and you'll find the link to this free crochet pattern in the description box as well. If you want to follow along with the tutorial and do it exactly how I did, it is a little bit puffier here just because that's where the extra fabric is, but it's rested and it's kind of shrunk down, and you do have a seam here that is created whenever you join your two sides together, but the hanger covers that up, or you could embellish it with a bow or some flowers, some greenery, a sign, a lot of different options that you can cover that up with. I like to use these hangers, and then I put this on a nail on my door. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a slip knot. So I've pulled the working yarn over my hand, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger, pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger, then I'll pull the one that's on the left now up over the other one and off my finger. Insert my crochet hook into that loop on my finger and pull it off. Then I'll hold the working yarn with my right hand and pull the short tail end with my left, just to tighten this up to normal tension. I'm going to start with a chain 32. To chain, we yarn over the hook and pull through the loop, yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook, yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. That gives us 3 chains, and I want a total of 32. There I have 32 chains. I'm going to half double crochet into the second chain from the hook and each chain all the way across. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. Skip the first one, and in the second one I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook directly into the center of the chain, yarn over, pull through. There are 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert my hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over, pull through. 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert right into the center of the chain, yarn over, pull through. 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and continue half double crocheting all the way across. There's our first row done. Counting the skipped chains down here, we have 31 half double crochets. To count that, you can count the V shapes at the top. Each one of those is a stitch. If you change the stitch count here, the chain multiple is 6 plus 2. So it needs to be a multiple of 6 stitches, and then you add 2 to that. That's why we have 32. When you're counting just the stitches, it is that multiple of 6 plus 1. We have 31. Row 2 and 3, we're going to build the ribbed pattern that the cables will be worked on top of. In row 2, we're going to be working with front post stitches, and in row 3 we'll work back post stitches. So let's start by chaining 1 and turning our work. We're going to half double crochet into the very first stitch, and then we're going to work a front post double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. I'm going to pull up my loop really quick. Here's just the first 3 stitches of the row. And you can tell because you see these stitches right here on the top. These are the stitches that we normally work into right here along the top. Right underneath that are the posts for each one of those. So here's the very first stitch, and directly underneath that it looks like a V shape that's facing you. That is the post for that stitch. Here's the next stitch, and directly below that is the post. In this row we're going to work front post stitches. So after I insert my hook back in here, I'm going to insert my hook into the space that's right in between the first and the second post. The space in between those stitches. Then wrap it around the back and come out in the space next to it. And this stitch that's on my hook is our post. So when we work our front post double crochet, that's going to be a stitch worked around the post, which will cause it to be raised up. So it's going to be a double crochet post, so I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook right into that space there in between the first and the second post stitch, this space right in between those stitches underneath the stitch on the top. Wrap it around the back of that coming out of the hole on the other side in between those stitches, picking up just the post on my hook. Yarn over, pull through. There are 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And you can see already that the very first stitch is behind that stitch we just worked, because this is a raised stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook into that space. It's very easy to see the space that you're inserting into because that post is raised up there. So insert right into that space, wrap it around the back, come out of the space just to the left of the post stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We're going to half double crochet into the next stitch, and just so you don't get a little bit confused of where to work, because it can be easy to confuse it here, look at the next post stitch. Directly above that is where you're going to work your stitch. A half double crochet. Then we're going to front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, and an easy way to tell, I can look at that post stitch that I just worked the half double crochet above. I don't want to work around that post, I want that to be laying flat. So it's going to be the next stitch that I'm working around. Insert right into the space in between those post stitches and come out just to the left of that post stitch. Yarn over, pull through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert into that space just to the right of my post stitch, wrap around the back, come out the space just to the left of my post stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Half double crochet into the next stitch. There's my next post stitch. Directly above that, half double crochet. This is going to be the repeat all the way across. It's going to be front post double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then half double crochet into the very next stitch. Continue working all the way across. When I get to the end, I'll be back to show you how to finish that off. I've worked up to my last repeat, so there's front post double crochet into each of those 2, half double crochet. I'm going to front post double crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to half double crochet into the very last stitch of the row. And there is row 2. We've alternated working a half double crochet into the stitch, then front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch, front post double crochet around the next 2 post stitches all the way down the row, and you can see the raised fabric there building that the cable stitch is going to be worked on top of. For row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to be working back post double crochets in this round around each one of the front post stitches from the previous row. So we're going to start by working a half double crochet into the very first stitch. Then we'll back post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches. Yarn over, rotate your fabric just a little bit towards you so you can see the post stitches there. You want to insert from right to left around that post stitch. So insert just to the right of that post stitch. When you do that, you're right here, you can see it in that space. It's just to the right of the post stitch. Wrap around the front, come out the space just to the left, picking up that post stitch on your hook, yarn over, pull directly through, and then yarn over, pull through 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches. Yarn over, insert here into the next space before the post stitch, wrap it around the front and come out the space just to the left, picking up just that post stitch on your hook, yarn over, pull all the way through, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then we'll half double crochet into the next stitch. It is the stitch just above the next post to the left, because you can also see one right there to the right. It is the stitch here to the left. Then we'll back post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches. And then half double crochet into the next stitch. There's our post stitch from that half double crochet, that stitch just to the left of it. Back post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch. Continue working all the way across to the end of the row. There's the end of row 3. It's not as pretty looking from this side. It is definitely the wrong side of the fabric. But we've alternated working a half double crochet into that stitch and then back post double crochet around the next 2 post stitches all the way across the row. Row 4 is going to start our cable pattern. It's going to be the first row of the repeat. Chain 1, turn. We're going to start with a half double crochet into the very first stitch. And now we're going to work our first cable. It is abbreviated as a CR4F. Cable stitch over 4 stitches. First thing I'm going to do is yarn over because I'm going to be working a double crochet. I'm going to skip the first 2 post stitches, skip the next half double crochet, and I'm going to front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches. Then I'm going to come back to the very first post stitch that I skipped, and I'm going to work a front post double crochet around that post stitch. And then front post double crochet around the next stitch as well. Then half double crochet into the next half double crochet that is just after the first set of post stitches you worked, the next one in line. And the crisscross pattern that we see here is what forms the cable, the twist in the cable. We'll repeat that again here, yarn over, skip the next 2 post stitches, skip the next half double crochet, front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches, then go back to the post stitches you just skipped, work a front post double crochet around the first one, then work a front post double crochet around the next one. Then half double crochet into the next stitch there in the row. And continue working all the way across, front post double crochet into each of the next 2, front post double crochet into those skipped stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch, all the way across the row. And there is row 4, ending with a half double crochet in that last stitch. As I mentioned, this is going to be the first row of our repeat. We're going to be repeating the same grouping of rows over and over, with row 4 being the very first one. In the next rows of the repeat, we will work to straighten out that cable and build those ridges there. The rest of the repeat alternates 2 rows, one worked in back post stitches and one worked in front post stitches. So we just worked basically front post stitches. We're chaining one now and turning to the wrong side, where we'll be working in back post stitches. Half double crochet into the very first stitch, back post double crochet around the very first 2 stitches, and that is the 2 stitches that you see on top there. Now we need to add in a half double crochet in the middle that we had before we worked the cable row. That's going to be worked right into the very next stitch you see, which happens to be the same stitch as the one that you just worked your back post stitch into. So yarn over and insert into that small stitch that you see right there before your next post stitch. It's almost like working into a chain, so it might be a little tough. Basically, where you worked your second back post stitch there, you also worked a half double crochet in that same stitch and added that extra stitch back in. Now we're going to back post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches. You see them here from the wrong side, So when you look from the front, you just need to pull apart the stitches so that you can see them easier. Then we're going to half double crochet in the next stitch. There's the post from that half double crochet of the previous row, and the stitch on top just to the left, that's where our half double crochet goes, and then we repeat again. But just so you can see here from the front, this evens out that cable stitch. You can see all the stitches a lot better now. Back post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches, which are the ones on top. We need to add a half double crochet now, so we're going to do it right here into this small stitch here to the right of your next post stitch. Then pull apart the stitches so that you can get to those next 2 post stitches easier, and work back post double crochets around each one of those. Half double crocheting to the next stitch. And there you can see it coming along nicely. Continue working that repeat all the way across the row. And that's the end of this row. This is the second row of the repeat that will always follow the row where we begin our cable, and this row is important to add in that half double crochet in between where the cable stitches have been worked. The next row, chain 1 and turn. This is going to be the third row of the repeat. It is front post stitches across, half double crochet into the very first stitch, then we'll front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches, then we'll half double crochet in the center, front post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch, just as we did in the second row. And we're going to continue that all the way across. The fourth row of the repeat is going to be just like the third one was. Chain 1, turn, half double crochet into the first stitch, back post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch, back post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches, and continue all the way across the row. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And our pattern is going to continue in the same exact way. We'll work one more set of repeats worked exactly the same with row 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we'll repeat again 4, 5, 6, and 7, but we will add 2 more repeats in there of front post double crochet across and then back post double crochet across, and that way it can give us a taller cable, and I'll show you an example of that here. This is the foundation here. This row right here is where we start our cable, and you can see here we have a taller repeat. So the repeat for the entire thing is this shorter repeat, longer repeat, shorter repeat, longer repeat. These twisted rows here, that is row 4 where we start our cable row. So it's row 4 is the cable, row 5 is where we work in back post and introduce the half double crochet in the middle. Row 6 is front post crochet, row 7 is back post crochet. So this smaller repeat is just 4 rows. When we get to the taller repeat, it is those same 4 rows. Then it is 1 more row of the front post double crochets, 1 more row of the back post double crochets, and that gives it 6 rows in total. Let's talk about gauge. This is a wreath form cover. It must fit the wreath form, so gauge is essential for this project. The best time to measure is going to be here in the center where the stitches have come back together. You can see at the top they're flaring out. That's because it's gotten to the part where I'm about to work a cable and it'll pull itself back together. So you don't want to measure out on the flared part, you want to measure here in the center. Measure all the way across. This works anywhere from 5 3/4 inches wide, which is what mine is measuring, all the way up to 6 1/8 inches wide. If you're measuring smaller, then you need to rework with a larger crochet hook. If you're measuring larger, then you need to rework with a smaller crochet hook. And if you have your styrofoam wreath base around, I have mine here, you can wrap it around to see if it's going to fit the way that you want. It is okay to be a little short, like mine is a little short, because it's going to stretch to fit when you sew it together. So this is 5 3/4 inches wide, and it will stretch to fit, and I'll sew it together. It does show through a little bit the white of the styrofoam. Overall, it's not really that noticeable, especially if you position it in a way that the cables are more prominent, and after it relaxes it'll close up those holes a little bit more too. So just keep that in mind as you work. If that white bothers you, you can try a green styrofoam wreath. Here I'm getting ready to work my 6-row repeat. I've worked my foundation, I've done the first repeat, which is where I left you off, and in this sample I have done another repeat of 4 rows. We're about to start a cable row. I will run through the cable row, which is row 4 and row 5, where we introduce the half double crochet, and then after that I will leave you to it. To start the repeat, we work a half double crochet into the first stitch, Then we yarn over, skip each of the next 2 post stitches, skip the half double crochet, front post double crochet into each of the next 2 post stitches, then front post double crochet into each of the skipped post stitches, starting with the first one, half double crochet into the next half double crochet, yarn over, skip the next 2 post stitches, skip the next half double crochet, front post double crochet into each of the next 2 post stitches, then front post double crochet into each of the 2 skipped front post stitches, half double crochet into the next half double crochet, continue across, for the second row of the repeat, chain 1, turn, half double crochet into the first stitch, back post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches, which are the 2 that are on top, add in a half double crochet into the next stitch that you see there to the right of the post stitch, which is the same as the post stitch you just finished. Then back post double crochet around each of the next 2. You might have to pull it apart to see the stitches better. And then half double crochet into the next half double crochet. And back post double crochet into each of the next 2 post stitches, which are on top. Add a half double crochet there, back post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch, and continue all the way across. Chain 1 and turn, half double crochet into the first stitch, front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch all the way across, chain 1, turn, half double crochet into the first stitch, Back post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch all the way across. Chain 1 and turn. This is where you would finish your repeat if you were working one of the smaller sections, but this is a taller section, so I'm going to work another one where I half double crochet, front post double crochet in the next 2, and then back post across. Just remember as you're working that you're repeating sections that should have 4, 4, 6, then 4, 4, 6. I want to make sure that I end mimicking this pattern on the other side. So I'll end with a 6, and then I'll work 2 sections of 4 and a section similar to this front part. Overall, this should be about 30 3/4 inches long to fit my 12-inch wreath form. Alright, I have worked a total of 97 rows. This was my last set down here. There's a 6 row, a 4 row, and a 4 row. Then I worked one more row after that with back post double crochets as normal. And this piece is now measuring about 30 5/8 inches long. Now I just want to finish this off. So these 2 rows that I worked here, the cable setup row and then the back post double crochet row, is going to be similar to this look in the front. So I want to end the same way as I began. So if you look at the beginning over here on the left, I'm going to be working backwards. This is the first 6 row repeat I worked here. So over here where I finished, here's my last 6 row repeat. On the left side, before that 6 row, I have 2 4 rows. Over here on the right side at the end, I've worked 2 4 row repeats. There is a cable setup row here on the left, which I worked on the right. Then I have 1 row worked with back post double crochets here on the left, and that's how I finished this row on the right. I'm going to work 1 row in pattern of front post double crochets here on the right side. That will match the left side, and then we'll finish with 1 row of half double crochet just like we started. So we are almost there, and then we'll be ready to finish it off. Alright, there's the end of that row. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. We'll be on the back side here, on the wrong side of the fabric, and we're just going to work a half double crochet into that first stitch and half double crochet into each stitch all the way across the row. Alright, that marks the ending there, so we can go ahead and fasten off. Now that I've finished this piece, I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. And I want a really long tail because I'm going to use this to sew up the whole side. I can add more yarn if I run out, but I like to just be prepared and go ahead and pull a really long tail here. Alright, I'm going to start with this. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. And if I run out, I'll just add more. I'm going to go back to that last loop here and pull up on it to break it. So I want the tail end to actually come out here, so there's no more loop. And now I'm going to weave in my ends before I get started with that. I have a couple. I had to reattach my yarn here, and then I have the beginning tail end as well. So I'm just going to thread this into my tapestry needle. First thing I'm going to do here in the middle of the rows where I've changed yarn here, so I want to tug on both tail ends to close up any holes that might be there to the left or the right of it, because it's got a loose tension just from sitting there. Both of these I'm going to weave in a similar manner. When I weave, I like to do 3 passes. That's my magic number. If you feel secure after 2, you can stop. If you feel like you need a 4th one, go ahead and do it. It's whatever you feel the most secured with your work. I am going to probably work 3. I also don't pick up the whole stitch on my needle. I insert my needle into the center of the stitch, breaking it in half. Then when I exit, I break the stitch in half as well. This is going to help capture my yarn better. So I'm just going to insert my needle into a nearby stitch here, and I'm going to run up vertically. I like to run up vertically as opposed to horizontally. It's easier to hide in the bulkiness of the stitches that are also worked in a vertical manner. So I'm pulling through, pulling on it, then going to use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to, so the fabric lays flat. I don't want it to bunch up here, I want it to look natural. So that's one pass, insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, run back down through several of the stitches I just worked, and break my last stitch in half as well. Pull on it, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric, and then I'll work one more pass. Breaking that stitch in half as I enter, up through several stitches I just worked, and break my last stitch in half as well. Pull on it, pull the fabric, and then fasten off. I'm going to do the same thing with this other tail end. I'm just going to run it up the opposite direction. For my beginning tail, let me thread that into my needle. I'm going to hold the slip knot and pull so that that goes to normal tension there. I'm looking at the wrong side of my work, the inside. I want my tail end to come out on this side. So I'm going to come down here one row below where I am. Right on the side edge there, I'm going to insert my needle right into the center. It's going to come out on the back side. Then I'm going to come up through the very first stitch, insert it from the right side to the wrong side, right into the center, and pull through. This will give me a V shape on the side that mimics the look of the rest, and then I can weave it in the same manner that I did before, breaking my stitches in half as I enter and exit, and working 3 passes. And now I'm happy with this, I'm ready to fasten off. I also am going to say this one more time. I like to work vertically to hide my stitches. It's really easy to hide it in the bulkiness of the stitches here. It also doesn't bunch up the fabric or prohibit any stretch widthwise. So most of the time I do weave in vertically. I'm going to go ahead and weave in my other ends off camera, and then I'll be back so we can seam it up.